Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Shana East. You are a DNC Rules Committee member from Illinois, Chicago area.
But going back, was a founding member of People for Bernie. So I've been there since April 2015 when we started that. I then founded Illinois for Bernie, the Grassroots campaign here. I was a staff member in 2016. I've been through sort of the Bernie movement ringer since like the get. So just a little background on like who I am and how I even kind of ended up in here. But I just want to also say, like, I think the more liberal and progressive wing of the Democratic Party share a common goal of getting Donald Trump out of office. So me speaking with you should not be looked at as contrary to that. Like, we share that goal. I'm not trying to screw the election or anything else that, they're gonna, if I talk to you, say those kind of things. So I just disagree with that. I had several proposals, but the point of what I was doing there was trying to draw attention to issues around voter suppression, actually ways that we could bring more Democratic voters in. And, that was sort of met with contempt, it felt like, from my point of view. But yes, what you said.
Met with contempt from
all sides. It was, I feel like the movement has been co-opted. This movement was about more than just Jeff Weaver and like Larry Cohen and Bernie's sort of inner circle. And like, yes, Bernie wants certain things and Bernie, has certain outcomes he wants or goals, or he makes certain deals or whatever for his, role in the Senate or whatever the case may be, and that's fine. But this movement is about more than Bernie Sanders. Like, let's be real. Like, how many millions of us dedicated the last 5 years of our lives to campaigning for him, pushing these progressive issues? It's not just about the sort of middle management or grass tops people making these decisions. So, it was upsetting because me and some of my colleagues like Maggie Wonderly she's been on the Rules Committee before. She made huge change, had a big impact in the Unity Reform Commission, did a ton of work with that, which also at the time people like Larry Cohen and Jeff Weaver sort of took credit for that. But there are people behind the scenes doing this work that are rarely recognized. And so I want to put a shout out to her. Where was I going with this? But anyways, yeah, so they made some kind of deal, and me and Maggie had been, about a month ago, we started sort of putting the word out, like, where are these other Rules Committee members? Because one other thing is, we were never given a list of who the Rules Committee members are. We don't know even the Bernie side members. We don't know the Biden side members. So they're doing everything they can, both the DNC, Bernie's campaign, Biden's campaign, to prevent any sort of organizing from happening. So that was something that was apparent. They were preoccupied with the platform committee or whatever the excuse is. The fact is that we didn't actually hear from the Bernie campaign until Sunday, this past Sunday. So about a month ago.
And the meeting was Wednesday, so only a few days before.
Proposals was Monday at 4 p.m. Central.
And you heard from Bernie's campaign the day before?
Sunday.
Wow.
So there was no assistance with making proposals, with that whole process. How do we make proposals? What do we do? What's the format? This is all stuff that Maggie had been on the committee before. She saved sort of templates of like what the proposals looked like and shared it around with people. She did a bunch of legwork to go on Facebook, to go on, different social media to try to find other Rules Committee members. And then like several weeks ago, we had a coordinating call to bring all of the Bernie folks we could on the committee together to start saying, what are you guys thinking? Do you want to make proposals? Answering a lot of questions that, frankly, the Bernie campaign should have been answering. Like, it's not up to us to do. We just did it because, like, we think that's what's right. And, like, we're the ones kind of behind the scenes doing the work while these kind of dudes are up here making deals on behalf of us little people. Like, so we were basically behind the scenes coordinating this sort of grassroots, organization of Bernie rules committee members.
And then the day before the actual meeting, there was a conference call. Jeff Weaver was kind of running it with Bernie committee members. And it's my understanding that essentially he said, stand down, don't make any real proposals. We've already...
Right. Yeah, after we all made our proposals, we spent weeks working on them, doing research, doing whatever we needed to do to find out how to properly submit it and everything. We all got those in by Monday at 4. And then they said, okay, we want to have a call either Tuesday or Wednesday. It ended up being Wednesday at 2:30 Central. And we get on the call, and it's Jeff. There was some staff members, a couple staff members, but Jeff Weaver was kind of like the main speaker. And, Jeff Weaver was just like, we've made a deal with the Biden campaign to have this unity resolution, which if you read it, it's very vague platitudes about unity and inclusion and whatnot. That's great, but it has nothing to do with what the majority of us made our proposals about. And they were basically saying, and also, we want everyone who made a proposal to withdraw it. Obviously, as a rules committee member, it's up to you whether you make a proposal or not, but this is what Bernie wants. You should heed what his representatives say. And if you don't, you're going against the progress that we've made. And we will ask Bernie members of the committee to vote against you.
But what would be the point on being a member of the Rules Committee if you're not proposing any rules? I'm not trying to be naive. Well, I just don't get, why did they not want you to... Basically, it sounds like Biden's campaign wanted to just gag you and just make this a symbolic meeting, and Bernie's campaign agreed with it.
We were, quote, there at the pleasure of Senator Sanders.
Who said that?
That's what Jeff Weaver said.
Wow.
Which, to me, it's like I'm there because we don't want to disappear from, I've been involved in the Democratic Party because I've campaigned for Bernie, because I ran as delegate, because of Bernie, basically. I was never involved before, and I probably will maybe not be after because of all that's happened. But I don't know. It was just I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like, most of the members were disempowered based on Bernie, for whatever his reasons, going along with the Biden team. Also, it seems like the actual meeting, which I spoke with Brent about, was rigged in itself. I mean,
it's like if you're already telling your people, if Biden's camp is already telling their people how to vote, if Bernie's camp is already telling our people how to vote, which are both coordinated together, what's the problem with hearing some proposals? Are you afraid of a little democracy, just hearing ideas? What is wrong with the sharing of perspectives? A woman of color on the committee, she was raising the point of the order of the primaries, have a more representational states come earlier. People wanted to make the superdelegates, Maggie Wonderly she proposed to make the superdelegates change from the Unity Reform Commission permanent, not just for one election cycle. Why not just hear what they have to say? You've already fixed the vote.
Right.
So what are you afraid of? I spoke my heart out. I did research for weeks and had my whole experience in Iowa. I got 15 votes, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's just what? And they wanted me to drop all of my proposals. Yeah, I got 15 yes, 148 no, and 9 abstentions.
Well, it also...
And big deal, I got to speak for 2 minutes.
Well, it also seems to me, and put aside the fact that it kind of goes against Bernie's brand and who Bernie is, to kind of gag your members and have them just disempowered. But also from a negotiating standpoint, yes, two things could be true. Bernie, Weaver, all of these, the whole Bernie team can be holding their nose, voting for Biden, while also not kind of giving it away and having some negotiation leverage. It seems to me that they're not even trying to negotiate or extract anything when you kind of negotiate against yourselves from the beginning. I mean, Weaver was saying, well, we made an agreement with Biden's campaign. That agreement seems, again, just to keep superdelegates on the second ballot. But you could have got more if they would allow negotiating.
Like one cycle, possibly, maybe in the future. It's not permanent.
Right. So it seems like
they like these, like, you know, I don't want to make this about identity, but we're talking about 70-year-old white men who have made a decision that this is the deal, and we're not going to hear from anyone else.
Right.
Like, they're on the committee. Why are they making a side deal? Why don't they come to the committee and say, this is the deal on the table. What do you guys think? Would you be willing to drop your proposals? But no, they know better than us. They're the deal makers. They're the big dogs, and we're the no one. I mean, so another thing that sort of drove people crazy about this was, how many times has Bernie Sanders spoke to a room of people who didn't agree, or it wasn't going to get passed, so what's the point? How many thousands of times has Bernie got up and spoke when it wasn't, you know, there wasn't going to be a transaction at the end of the day? And they were telling us, the people who are inspired to be in our, you know, our involvement in politics because of Bernie in many cases, to do quite the opposite, to just do as told. And, you know, it was just ridiculous. Yeah, it was just such a bummer, frankly, after being this involved for so many years, and just like ending on this note of just. And like, I agree, the superdelegates change should have been extended. I totally agree with that. That is a great thing. But why not come to the committee, talk to us? Why sort of bully us against even speaking? They could have said, you know, we're gonna let everyone speak, but you know what? We made this deal for this outcome, and like. Right.
And it seems to me also, based on my conversation with Brent, that the actual live stream was kind of theater. Like, they had put members into a virtual breakout room that viewers on the live stream couldn't actually hear or see them. So there was basically, confirm if you can, Bernie people kind of flying off the handle because Biden's people motioned to table banning corporate donations, but you couldn't hear that. You couldn't basically hear the disarray and tension because they essentially muted the Bernie members.
Right. So what happened was Resolution 7 came up, which was Brent's proposal to ban corporate lobbyists from being DNC members. Okay. So Brent speaks. Then they had I believe it was two people speak against. I think one of them was a lobbyist. And then, so the funny thing was usually when the introductory person, the proposal sponsor, would start speaking, you would go into the DNC portal and you would be able to start voting. So yes, no, or abstain, starting with when they're beginning speaking. There's that much time to vote. Well, we were going over to vote, and it said there are no votes available at this time. So people are like, huh? And we had, you know, a lot of the Bernie people were in the Slack sort of chatting back and forth because we had no way to, they actually shut down the chat. So no one could communicate with one another. No one could make a motion or use parliamentary procedure on this call. There was no way to communicate. So we're all in this chat, like, what's going on? I can't vote. And someone's like, oh, I contacted the help desk. Like, it's you know, they're working on it, you know, acting like it's a technical difficulty. Then the two con speakers, like against Brent's resolution, spoke. Still not up. You still can't vote. Then all of a sudden, the second, you know, then it was about time that they were going to say, okay, everyone vote. Someone gets unmuted, which was odd because you had to, if you were going to present, you had to go into a waiting room, and then they had to unmute you, and then you had to go back in. So the only way someone would have been unmuted is if this was some sort of coordinated effort. So someone, I'm assuming a Biden person, unmuted, saying, I'd like to make a motion to table this till a later date.
Right. And then everything
like,
worked.
What? Everyone's like, what? And then someone goes seconded, and we're like, what? We had no parliamentary procedure earlier in this call. How do we even do it? So we're in the chat, we're in the Slack, sorry, not the chat because there was no chat, going, oh my God, what do we do? How do we make a motion? We don't even know. And then, okay, this is what we would say, but I'm like, there's no way to make it. So I'm emailing the secretary, Jason Ray, in an email. I make a motion to untable this and bring it to a vote. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to vote to table Amendment 7. All of a sudden, the portal voting is working. Vote to table, and it's like yes, no, abstain, and we're like, what? And that's when all hell broke loose, because then the vote passed to table it, and then they went right on to the next one, like seamlessly.
So they obviously disabled the vote when they felt like it and activated it.
There was a technical difficulty, and then it magically ended when the vote to table it came up.
Right.
You were just like, that's when all hell broke loose. People were going, I was like holding up a sign. I don't have it. Oh no, I was holding this up. I was like motion to, on the camera, because so everyone's trying to change their picture on the Zoom call to like motion to like a text. Like we were trying everything we could, and people started yelling at each other, back and forth between the Biden people and the Bernie people. And I was like, oh my God, this is all on video. This is going to be crazy. But what they did, and I found out later because I went on YouTube, because I was trying to find someone to pull the video, because, to rip it, because I thought they were going to take it down, because it was just chaos. People swearing, people going insane, like having arguments back and forth. And then I watched it, and they had moved us into a breakout room, which in Zoom, it's just like a separate sort of room from the main room. They had Barney Frank in the other chair in the main room, and they moved us all out. So it wasn't just Bernie people. You could talk to other Biden people. There was arguments. This one guy was like, you guys were going to lose anyway. And then I'm like, if we were going to lose anyway, then what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of democracy? Like, it was like all this argument and like madness that I thought was going to be on the live stream. And they had like very, very savvy of them, by the way, because I have to say, people are like, are you surprised it's the DNC? No, I'm not surprised, but it is interesting to see the new advances in sort of silencing the minority. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was wild. But yeah.
Well, thank you for taking us kind of inside the virtual rigged room, because even the virtual Zooms, they seem to be rigging. And we'll keep in touch because, yeah, I don't know how you reform a party that's run by lobbyists. Barney Frank is the chairman. He's a board member of a bank. Maria Cardona was the other chairwoman. She's a lobbyist. I don't really know how you the people who tabled to motion to table the getting corporate PAC donations out of the DNC. They were lobbyists. I mean, it's basically having the arsonists run the fire department, and it's.
They basically just didn't want to bring it to a vote. They didn't want their names to have to be linked, on record,
right,
that they were against this. And then actually later in the call, after people had already gotten off and everything, then they were like, oh, now we're going to untable this. And then they forced a vote, like when some people were off, when all chaos had broken off, and of course it failed. Right. But I just want to, it sounds like you're about to go, so I just wanted to say, I just want to bring attention again to my resolution or my amendment, which was to basically eliminate caucuses, that they are not accessible, that they, cause voter suppression. Older folks, people with disabilities do not have equal access to participation. Now we have COVID. How are we going to caucus in person? We have to think about a new way that's more democratic and that, has, increases voter participation. And I want, if everyone could just go to my Twitter and watch the video of my presentation and tell me how the Bernie camp can vote against what I had to say. It's the Shauna East. It's Twitter, twitter.com/the THESHANAEAST, and watch my 5-minute clip.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Shauna. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.